The Rockpile Report, the pettiest, hardest drinking Bills podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the AFC's Roundup podcast. I'm your host, Bill, season ticket holder Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger. We're looking at Week 5 in the NFL and just the injuries that... Chris, we went from being one of the healthier teams in the division to just getting decimated in a 10-day window.
Yeah, it's London's fault.
Well, it's no one's fault, but Jesus.
London.
And then you look around the rest of the AFC East and you go, you know, we're not alone. For as much as we want to put our hats on and go, oh my God, what was us? We could live in a snow globe of just our own misery. But why do that when there's so much of other people's misery that we could be sharing it? This week we're talking about injuries and despair, and I feel like that's the right segue to bring in Mr. Christian Simonelli as we start to talk about the Patriots, who lost 34-0 to the... Wait a minute. 34-0 to the Saints? Oh, the Saints? What?
Coached by Dennis Allen.
What? Oh. Guys, so just to walk you through here, the Bills fans who might be naive, the Patriots lost a very productive rookie cornerback, their first-round draft pick, Christian Gonzalez, to a shoulder injury, done for the season. This week, Cole Strange catches a knee injury. Pass rusher Matt Judon, I think their most expensive player, basically season-ending bicep injury. And yet the most painful injury might be just the crushed souls of Patriots fans.
Yeah, Christian's feelings.
Just trying to endure what has to seem like this inexorable descent into hell. Christian, what has the last 2 weeks as a New England Patriots fan been like for you?
It's been hell. You've nailed it. Hell. Absolute hell. I tweeted during the game, I X'd whatever the frig I did during the game. I go, people, we are the 10th. We got sucked down into the 10th level of hell. Just like the mayor said in Ghostbusters 2, when New York got overtaken by the slime. And there's no more word. There aren't any more words in the English dictionary to just explain how bad this has been. Like, I told you 7, 8, or 8 wins on the year. I at least expected them to get off the bus and show up. I mean, they have been non-existent these past 2 games. I don't know what to say. Speechless.
It's been wild to just see the numbers, right? Like the numbers behind how the Patriots have been struggling. I mean, everyone's seen the viral video now of the guy who called into, I think it was Feldra Maz and Noodle Arm. So I even saw somebody say,
Felger Maz.
Yeah, I think I saw somebody here. They were like, Del Reed is a local proprietor of a shirt shop called 26 Shirts. He makes shirts for charity, and he was like, you have to create a shirt kind of in like a Patriots thing that's just themed under this thing of Noodle Arm, AHM. It's the best. But when you look at the
incredible.
Ways that's good. But then you look at Evan Lazar, and he goes, the Patriots have the worst offense in the NFL. 32nd in average points, 11. 32nd in expected points added. 32nd in dropback per EPA. New England's 55 points through 5 games is the second fewest in the NFL through a team's first 5 games in 10 years. Wasn't this supposed to go forward? I thought adding Bill O'Brien was supposed to make this better. Why are things so hard for the Patriots right now on offense?
I don't know what happened after the second quarter in the home opener against the Eagles. Mack had probably his best performance as a quarterback of this team in that quarter. And I don't know what the hell happened after that. It was the best I had seen him play, and arguably the best everybody has said they've seen him play since he's been here, when they scored 2 touchdowns. And then, it just evaporated. And people say it's 5 games, it's 4 games, now there's tape. the first couple of games, it was more, all right, this is what they're doing. And now as they're playing teams and they got the tape on them, they know what to do and they're shutting them down. That doesn't explain Mack all of a sudden just forgetting how to be a quarterback. That doesn't all of a sudden explain how Bill Belichick can't coach, Bill Belichick can't coach. No, there's just something rotten in this team. And I think it starts with Mack. I do. I think he's a giant turd. I think the kid's a giant turd. I think
you're blaming him.
Baby.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a big baby. And there was a report out this week that the past couple of weeks in practice, the defense has gotten after him for throwing passes, yelling at him, saying to him, dude, you can't do this in the game. If you do this in the game, it's going to get picked. And then he did it in the game on Sunday, and then the body language of the team just completely changed. I mean, Here were the drives Sunday in the first half. Punt, missed field goal, punt, end of half. To start the second half, fumble, punt, interception, punt, turnover on downs, punt, turnover on downs. We're on to week 5. You can't get any worse than that. You could go to a Pop Warner field in September and kids could put together more drives than this team did. It begins and ends with Mack. We've talked ad nauseum about the building of the team and the drafting and the failure and the hits and the misses, and more so misses in the free agency and misses in the draft. We're way beyond that now. We're way beyond all. This is a whole new level of just ineptitude. And you want to blame the quarterback. Actually, you want to give credit to when the offense puts up 30 points every week, and you want to give the credit to the quarterback if he's out there slinging it. Well, I'm sorry, but when you put up 3 points in 2 weeks, the finger goes squarely on that kid. And don't give me about the offensive line. I don't want to hear about the wide receivers.
I was going to ask.
I've been saying that for 3 years. They still managed to put points on. They still managed to put drives together, and they still managed to put points on the board. This kid is rotten.
What I would say is
he's broken. By the way,
well, I was going to say
broken, and I don't think there's any fixing him.
I was going to point at Josh Allen's first offensive line. Okay. You go back to the 2018 Buffalo Bills. I can do it right now. 2018.
Is that the year that Allen...
It was Allen's first season.
Year?
Allen's first season where the Buffalo Bills had an offensive line that they were 31st in offensive line spending. Our whole line, right? They brought in a whole bunch of free agents. We didn't have any holdovers. I think Dawkins might have been the only one. Deion Dawkins was the only holdover. Everyone else was brand new. And they all made less than one season of Taylor Lewan for the Titans. The whole line made less than $19 million. That team still went on to score with a rookie Josh Allen. 20 points. 27 points. There were some weeks, right? Allen gets hurt against the Texans. Then we go 5 points, 6 points, 9 points. He comes back. We scored 24 points against the Jaguars. 17, 23, 14, 12, 42 against the Dolphins to end the year. Josh Allen proved that year with a shit offensive line. I can still make plays with no talent around me at wide receiver. Now, the problem is at wide receiver, Mac Jones is pretty much in the same spot, isn't he? You guys are just paying a lot more money than we did for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Your buddy Tom
Curran. I listened to that podcast because of you, and I was enlightened about the whole Jacoby Myers situation and a lot of things. Like, how frustrating is it to watch Jacoby Myers? Like, here you have all these injuries. Tyquan Thornton, a draft pick, another draft pick at wide receiver high who's not panning out. And you watch them ship out the one guy who did work and is still working for another team for a guy who's got a bum knee and doesn't have any touchdowns.
I mean, it's absolutely maddening. All the high picks that you spent on guys, from the N'Keal Harrys to the Aaron Dobsons, to the various guys, way back when, to like Brandon Tate, and I'm going even back further, like to like Josh Boyce, all those guys that didn't work out. Here you get a guy that is undrafted. I mean, you basically make the kid, like you mold the kid into what you want him to be, and then rumor has it is that he basically was a guy last year that spoke up. Bill didn't quote like that he spoke up in the locker room, made him a half decent offer, a quote competitive offer, like Bill said today. And you turn around and he goes to the Raiders, and you end up signing a guy that's got one knee. I mean, you couldn't make it up. You can't possibly keep making bad decision after bad decision and it not affect you, and it's affecting the wide receiver core first and foremost more than anything. I mean,
how about this?
A position that needs a complete overhaul. Oh, by the way, and you traded for Devontae Parker and you signed him to an extension.
You guys extended Devontae Parker? This is a great time for me to interject that Devontae Parker is currently second to last in the NFL in average separation. He is second to last, and here's the worst part. If you look at the top 15, you guys have 3 players at the bottom of the league for average separation. So you want to know why Mac Jones can't throw the ball? Well, you've got offensive line injuries, right? Like your tackles have been healthy all season. And now a guy like Strange is going out. Like, is that a death knell for what was already a struggling offense?
I mean, I just look at Cole Strange. Every time I just hear his name, a shudder just goes through my body, and I just think of that draft, and I just say, what were you doing? Like, what? First of all, you want to get fast and you want to get athletic. Yeah, you want to do that at the skill positions. I want big fat oafs on the offensive line that you need a truck to move. Okay? I don't want a guy going out that's going to be able to be athletic and be able to go out and on a screen, because you don't even call screens anymore. So who cares? Just please, God, like get back to getting good players. Like, as far as I'm concerned, the best draft pick that Bill Belichick ever hit on wasn't Tom Brady. It was Richard Seymour. With the 6th overall pick in the 2001 draft, you drafted Richard Seymour, a Hall of Fame defensive lineman. Hit it out of the park, home run, and you needed a hit on that pick, and you did. We're so far removed from him being successful and doing that and evaluating talent. It's not even funny how bad.
You know what's funny? You guys
and
took
the results are on the field.
Well, you took Keon White before we took Osiris Torrance. He's a starting guard for us, and he's been playing some really phenomenal football.
Oh, we took like 6 guards, just none in premium positions. We just had to grab those in like the 4th and the 5th rounds.
But don't worry, guys. You have Marte Mapu. It'll be fine.
We do? I don't know. I haven't seen him on the field. I heard a lot about him in August. Now he's been in mothballs.
And this is it. So now, like, this Matthew Judon injury, that's the one. That's like, you lose Christian Gonzalez, and you go, okay, he was one reason to get excited. He was one of the only reasons to get excited about this defense. Everyone else is either old, or they're trying to they're not aligned properly. They can't get, or they're just not engaged. Gonzalez was in there scrapping, and he gets hurt. Judon might have been the most meaningful defender you had left. Does this mean that opponents' scores are going to balloon? Because if that happens, and you guys keep fielding this offensive approach, how deep might the rabbit hole go here for Patriots fans?
I mean, I said last week, I was like, we bottomed out in Dallas, like it can't get any worse. So you decided to come home and really just bottom out against the Saints. I mean, there is that faction right now where the defense is like, come on. Like people were saying that today in the news and stuff I was reading online, like listening on the radio and stuff. Like people are saying that the defense is like, okay, come on, guys, like give us something, like, give us a break here. That's fundamentally where this can tailspin into a 1-16, 2-15 type season. Like if that happens and the defense is just like, screw it, they can't score anyways. What are we out here busting our humps for? We just lost our best two defensive players 2 weeks ago. I think it's very hard for Belichick to make sure that does not set in if the offense doesn't put together something this week. And honestly, there's a huge part of me where I'm like, Dude, just please don't go out there and get like 6 or 7 wins. Don't attempt to turn it around. I'm miserable. Fine. I know there's a dozen games left and there's 3 months in the season left. Just suck. Fine. I'm accepting of the fact that you stink.
Well, so it's funny that
don't
you
lose that top 5 pick.
Well, and so this is it. It's funny you say that, because the question will be in the coming weeks as we kind of again keep descending into hell along with you as a Patriots fan, whether or not this owner decides that if a rebuild is necessary, this is the guy to do it, and whether or not that might even alienate some of the draft picks involved. It's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out for you guys. I'd say I felt bad for you, but I feel like I still need another year or two. I feel like I need another year or two to really feel sorry for Patriots fans. In the meantime, where can all of our listeners follow you on social media?
At Chris with a TIN on X. Give me a follow. I'll give you a follow back, and you can see my rants before your very eyes.
And so we pivot from the misery in Boston, which I got to admit, like I'm not Italian, but if I had the good bread, I'd be sopping that up. I'd be sopping all of that misery up with the good bread. We pivot to the New York Jets, who beat the Broncos 31-21 in what might be, as Scott Mason joins us here on the podcast, it might be one of the most poetic football games of the NFL season. Chris, for the people who think that this whole thing is scripted, the outcome of this game didn't do the league any favors if they're trying to get rid of that, did it?
Yeah, I mean, that was scripted, for sure. Nate Hackett supposed to win that game.
Nate Hackett needs to shut up.
I mean, because if there's anybody the league would script something for, it's Nate freaking Hackett. Come on.
Dude, I got to ask you. So, injuries aside, that win against the Broncos had to feel pretty good, especially that last touchdown. That last one, just Russ not understanding. You're watching a veteran quarterback just be flummoxed.
I mean, I think the big thing for me is that my big takeaway, obviously, is that beyond Breece Hall being what looks to be right back to where he was last year, and I loved Greg Rosenthal from the Around the NFL podcast comparing Breece Hall to Chris Johnson. Now, granted, Chris Johnson had more straightaway speed, but Breece Hall, despite what Tiki Barber said during the broadcast, which you would think he would know better, but then again, it's Tiki Barber, so of course. But Breece Hall ran a 4.39, so he's a pretty fast running back anyway. But I think, like Chris Johnson, Breece Hall, what he does is every time he touches the ball, you're confident he's going to get you 5-6 yards, something like that. He can get you that home run, and he did, but he can get you a lot of gains in chunks. You take away that 72-yard run, he's still at 105 yards rushing. So that's sort of what proves it, and that was the type of running back that Chris Johnson was as well. So you look at that and you say, okay, Breece Hall, getting him the ball, making sure that there are lanes for him, that's priority A as far as if you want this offense to run well. But on the other end of it, last year in Denver, Zach Wilson stunk. He was terrible. Now, he didn't have 3 turnovers or whatever, but if you go back and watch, he was brutal. He did all the things that you later yelled at him for, running backwards 20 yards when he should just get rid of the ball, escaping clean pockets. There was one point in time where he had a wide open Garrett Wilson, and he made such a bad throw that you could see Garrett Wilson caught on camera, throwing, I don't want to say a tantrum, but
I remember that when he was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but in this game, you watch Zach Wilson, and I'm not saying he was perfect, but look, I told you a couple of weeks ago, after the first win against the Bills the first week, I said, the Jets' realistic hope for Wilson is that you have to hope that he can be Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew, somebody like that. A guy who's maybe – because, again, he wasn't supposed to play this year, and the plan was for him to come back in a year or two after being completely retooled. But he got shoved in there when he really shouldn't have been, and he wasn't ready. So if you're a Jets fan, your hope is, okay, maybe he doesn't hit his ceiling this year, but if he can just improve enough to be the type of quarterback I just mentioned, a guy that gives you a reasonable chance to win, a guy who, when asked to make throws, can make throws, leans on the running game and all of that, the defense does its job, you have a chance to win games. And that's what Zach Wilson's been the last couple weeks. Look, we know the Jets got jobbed big time against the Chiefs. And in this game, again, by no means was he great. And if you look at the box score, you'd say, oh, he only threw for 199 yards and he had an interception and all that. But if you actually watched the game, what you saw was a guy who was confident, who stuck in the pocket, who made some really nice throws. The one to Conklin, which, by the way, an extra reason you'd be encouraged by that throw to Conklin is because Wilson came up to the line, didn't like what he saw, checked into the throw to Conklin, checked out of whatever they were doing and into the throw to Conklin. These are the kind of things you wouldn't have seen last year. So I'm not saying Zach Wilson's a franchise quarterback. I'm not even saying he's an average starting quarterback at the moment. But what he's shown you the last couple of weeks, and if he can build on this, then the Jets might be in good shape the rest of the year, or at least much better shape than we would have expected after Rodgers went down, is he might be a legitimate starting option, and that's all you could have reasonably asked for. And I thought he showed you a fair amount of that against Denver, and that was very encouraging.
So the theme of the show tonight is injuries. We're just talking about how every team, and Jets fans know this, every team's taking hits. And it just seems like the AFC East seems to be absorbing a lot of them right now. And so it was interesting to me to kind of look around the division and go, everybody's got their own kind of wonky injury situation that's kind of throwing a wrench in things. The Jets being probably the biggest, losing their starting quarterback who was supposed to be the straw that stirs the drink for them, as far as that goes. You guys lose Aaron Rodgers to an Achilles. You lose Dwayne Brown early in the season to a shoulder. He goes on IR for shoulder injury. He's supposed to be coming back. DJ Reed's out with a concussion, or at least he's listed as having one. And then you guys lose Elijah Verret again to a season-ending Achilles injury.
In Denver for the second straight year,
by the way. Second straight year in the same place. Now, first of all, how big of a blow to the offensive line's performance and maybe the entire offense is Elijah Verret?
I think it's a big blow for a couple of reasons. The first is that he's probably their best overall offensive lineman. And the thing about him that was so valuable is, and I was trying to explain this to somebody who kept saying, Jets fans are too high on Verret. He's not that good. He's never even made a Pro Bowl or an All-Pro or whatever. And it's like, first of all, of course he didn't make an All-Pro or a Pro Bowl last year. He was hurt. And he's not going to do it again this year because he got hurt. So what if he had stayed at his natural position of guard, I think there's a very good, and stayed healthy, I think there's a very good chance he'd be getting ready for his second Pro Bowl selection. But what Verret has done, which has really, aside from the injuries, really limited his opportunity to be an All-Pro or a Pro Bowler, but also increased his value to the team, is that Verret has played, I remember last year within the span of like 4 weeks, he played 4 different positions. He played left guard, left tackle, right tackle. Now, bear in mind, his natural fit is a guard, and also bear in mind that he never played right tackle in college. He played left tackle. So for him to step in there at right tackle, because look, this is what happened. You mentioned Dwayne Brown. Dwayne Brown was bad, and he was hurt anyway. So once he got hurt, the issue was who steps in there. Now, you could throw Max Mitchell in there, who's probably going to be there now, the second-year guy out of Louisiana. You could throw in Billy Turner, whose nickname is Turnstile Turner for a reason.
He sounds like a WWF jobber. The Turnstile.
Yeah, exactly. He's basically the Steve Lombardi, the Brooklyn Brawler of the NFL.
I love the Brooklyn Brawler with that flat cap.
I'm telling you, man. But in all seriousness, his value went beyond, because he was a guy, and there are very few of these in the NFL. He could play elite level at guard, but also above average at tackle. You don't see that. A guy that can play 4 different positions above average on the offensive line. And so it became a situation where, Becton went down. Okay, put Verret at left tackle. Dwayne Brown went down. All right, put Verret at right tackle. okay, so no matter where you needed him, he could do it, and now he's gone again. And so, like I said, I assume you'll see Max Mitchell. But again, if somebody else goes down, and this is the NFL, and you've got big, giant offensive linemen, and it certainly can happen, you'll see it again. Now, the line was working the last couple of weeks. The pass protection was much better, and even the run blocking in this game, obviously, against the Broncos. Now let's stipulate that the Broncos have the worst run defense in the NFL, so certainly that helps. But him being gone really takes a lot out of that offensive line. And what I said before about Zach Wilson, I think pertains to Max Mitchell here, right? With Zach Wilson, the hope is, can he be Jacoby Brissett? Can he be, Gardner Minshew? Can he be a guy that if the defense plays really well and the running game does what it's supposed to do, he's good enough to manage the game, make plays when he needs to, and the team can win games that way? Can Max Mitchell, we can't expect him to be Elijah Verret Tucker, can't expect him to be even Mekhi Becton when Mekhi Becton's healthy, but can he be serviceable? Can he be a decent starting tackle? And if he can do that, then the Jets might be okay, but that's the big question now, because you lose your best guy and you have to replace him with a replacement level player.
Well, speaking of which, you guys have been arm wrestling apparently, or I can foresee it now. Lyle Collins floating around. You and apparently your in-state, not in your same conference. It's the battle for New Jersey. You guys are going to arm wrestle over who gets Lyle Collins. The guy who he was average at best. He's coming off a bad year, but he's a guy. And right now I'm looking at the roster. I had to pull it up on our lads. You guys only have 7 offensive linemen on your roster right now.
Well, right, and that's kind of what I'm saying. And plus, also, let's remember,
great. And we're only in week 6. We're only in week 6.
Yeah, and remember, Becton is a constant injury worry because he was out for 2 years.
Yep.
Laken Tomlinson was banged up in camp a little bit. Connor McGovern, he had injury issues 2 years ago. Tippmann came out of this game. So you need the depth. And look, you said it. Collins was really good with the Cowboys for a few years. Then he had the injuries. He fell off. He was floating around for a reason at this point because he wasn't entirely healthy. But at this stage of the game, he's probably, by significant margin, the best available guy. So if you're the Jets, you go and you try to get him because you got to try and get the best guy you can get. And teams aren't exactly lining up to trade quality offensive linemen right now.
No, absolutely not. One question. Joe Tippmann, rookie, 2nd-round pick. You guys drafted him you drafted him before John Michael Schwartz, the guy that every Bills fan had their heart set on in terms of, oh my God, if this is the year we draft the center, it would be amazing. It would be amazing if this is the year we draft the center. And they loved that kid. He obviously didn't fall to us. He went to the Giants. Again, another Jersey product that you guys are just sucking up the good centers. Is there a world where, because you're talking about Billy Turner maybe taking over there, is there a world where because of the concerns about Mekhi Becton's health, you need a guy like Turner just sitting on the sideline as break glass in case of emergency, and you have to find another guard option? I'm assuming it has to be Tippmann at some point, right?
Yeah, well, Tippmann is playing guard right now. Yep. So I think, obviously, if something happens at tackle, that would be why you get La'el Collins, because he can also play guard and tackle, and you don't want to have to play Billy Turner. Billy Turner's kind of one of those funny things where, remember what I just said about Elijah Verret Tucker, how he can play 4 different positions? Well, so can Billy Turner. The difference is Verret Tucker can play them well, and Turner plays none of them well. So you have a guy who can fill in at any of these positions, but he's going to be bad at all of them. The Tippmann thing is
just described me in softball. I'm not going to lie to you. I can play outfield, right? Except I can't track the ball well in the air. I can play first base, except I really don't catch well when the ball has some motion on it from third base. The last time I did that, baseball, I saw the ball coming and I had already opened my glove. I'm a righty, so it's in my left hand. Foot on the bag because I don't want to be off. I'm cocky because I got the first 2 outs, which are just easy catch and throw. Okay, cool. This heater comes from third base and it's got some motion on it, but I've already committed. I've already stuck my glove out and I'm outstretched and I go, it's cool. I'll just bare hand this ball into my glove. And in doing so, just immediately broke my finger. It just exploded. And it was like, oh no. So there's actually not a defensive position in the game of softball that Drew can actually play well. He'll do it. He'll just do it like okay, perfect example. I'm out in right field. Somebody hits a fucking rope and it's a low one. But because I don't know any better, I just bum rush the thing and end up having to catch it like a football in my chest. And I had the stitch marks of the ball like in my chest for about a week. Like I'm just
You are the Billy Turner of softball. But no, the thing about Tippmann is obviously they've been playing him at guard. He's probably the long-term answer at center. And I think the reason the Jets took him over John Michael Schmitz is because while Schmitz probably was a little better than Tippmann, Tippmann had a much higher ceiling and was a much better athlete. And they felt he would be a better fit for what they were looking to do. And to be fair, he's been really good so far. So you have to be very happy with Tippmann if you're a Jets fan at the moment.
Well, the question is, well, I was going to say, what does this look like next week when you guys go up against the Philadelphia Eagles? Because this is going to be the thing. That's the question of the week, right? And that's why I want to tell all of our listeners, go check out Play Like a Jet in the run-up to this. We're going to see the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to see them later this year. So all the scouting work, all the conversations going on over at Play Like a Jet this week are going to be useful to Bills fans later in the season. I fear for you guys with this offensive line situation you have going up against that front. Where can everybody find your work and where can they follow you on social media as you guys come up into this pre-bye week? What feels like a massive kind of a litmus test for how far Zach Wilson's come.
Excellent question, Shelton. You can find Play Like a Jet anywhere where you download podcasts. You can go to playlikeajet.com. I'm at playlikeajet1 on Twitter. You can also check out our store at teepublic.com. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/playlikeajet. And listen, I'll say this. I think the Eagles have shown that while they are one of the most complete teams in the NFL, and while they've won all of their games so far, they've been competitive in just about all of them. They haven't been blowing teams away. This hasn't been like the San Francisco 49ers.
Well, they missed Shane Steichen. Chris called it. Chris was the one. I have to give credit where credit's due. Right. Chris came to me and said, hey, Jalen Hurts, passing yards, take the under because they're going to miss Shane Steichen this year. And you're watching this going, all right.
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say I'm shocked that Chris knew who Shane Steichen was. But regardless, I should say I think that's part of it. But I also think it's just one of those things where there are new elements and they're kind of playing around with some new things. And I think this is one of these deals where you'd see this a lot with teams like the Patriots when they were at their peak,
the experimentation
where they would
period.
kind of be figuring things out the first part of the season.
Well,
so look.
Well, hopefully you guys don't become one more just kind of thing in there. Like you're not just an experiment going on in their laboratory. Hopefully your defense can come out and give them hell. Scott, I very much appreciate you coming on and joining us as always.
Scott Mason and Christian Simonelli. We're going to have Alf Arteaga on after we talk about the Bills, but they are the Blue World Order of...
Did you just say Blue World Order?
Yeah.
Right.
Big Stevie Cool.
You got to Google this for me. I need to see this.
All right.
I'll up on the screen.
Yeah, it's the Blue Meanie, Big Stevie Cool, and I forgot who the other guy was. Might be Nova.
Who was writing for the WWF at this point?
This is ECW, baby.
Oh, gee, the Blue Meanie.
They just did a play on the NWO because that was hot. Here, look at this. This is the Blue World Order.
Oh no!
You're the blue guy, Big Stevie Cool, and then Hollywood Nova. I think that's who that was. We'll have to look at the Blue World Order.
I feel like most wrestling gimmicks that get copied somewhere else are always sad, right? Like
this was quite popular the Blue Meanie.
Among who?
Everybody.
Dorks. That's who. Abject dorks. Those
It
are
was-
the only people who knew who the Blue Meanie was. I promise you that.
It was a great success in ECW.
Yeah, which nobody knows about. Everyone, I guarantee you this. Anybody who's ever heard of ECW knows about a guy named Raven and New Jack because he was a psychopath. Like an actual, hey, I joined the most hardcore version of wrestling because I actually just enjoy hurting people. I'm a sociopath. I took a pizza cutter to a guy's face. Why? Because I thought it was funny. I actually tried to kill a guy during a match. Why? Because screw that guy. I didn't like him. Like, that was the ECW crowd. Anybody, like, Chris, nobody knew them.
Yeah.
All of this is nonsense. The Blue Meanie.
I mean,
Who would be the Blue Meanie out of tonight's crowd? Who would be the Blue Meanie?
Alf.
Alf
Would be the Blue Meanie.
Alf would put you in the fucking, what do they call that? The not the Boston Market. That was the place.
Boston Crab.
The Boston Crab. I was saying the Boston Market.
That's where you get
That was just a
shitty
place-
chicken.
That was just a place with good mac and cheese.
Yeah.
We're here talking about the Buffalo Bills in the AFC East roundup. We're in third place in the division, who lost to the Jaguars 25-20.
Second place.
Second place. And we lost a lot more than that. We obviously...
Yeah, I would have loved to have Matt Milano not come back from the game with an injury due to a pizza cutter.
No, it's a rough one, right? It's hard when you look around and you go, okay, we had multiple players playing at Pro Bowl levels, and now they're all gone in the span of 10 days.
Yeah.
It's been 10 days. We just lost. It's almost like that. You feel kind of like that Fresh Prince of Bel-Air meme from the final episode when he shows up at the house and looks around and it's empty.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you feel like that inside when you look around and you're like, well, these were the things that I was excited about. Now what do I have? And you look around and there's no furniture in the room. There's raccoons running around. Someone's left a window open. Now there's flies. It's not good. And yet they're going to have to play the fucking games. So let's all stop crying about it. Now, I saw a tweet from the Air Raid Hour over at Cover One that I thought was interesting.
We still need to do a show with them.
Yeah, I don't know if we can put that much awful hair in one podcast. Like, I don't know if I can do that with you guys.
Steve's got great, thick hair.
You and Steve, it's almost like the two of you are having a contest that nobody knows about, as far as, like, who can piss Drew off more just by how they choose to sculpt their head in the morning. Are you, like, if you are, it's cool. It's a great gag.
No, I mean, I can't help
just-
it. I've got exceptional hair.
I will. I'm gonna find out where you get your hair cut, and I'm gonna pay her $100 to just fucking buzz you, just real quick, like it was an accident.
And then I'll give her a $100 tip to not do it.
So the guys at the Air Raid Hour tweeted something out that I thought was it was interesting when you think about it, because right now, Chris, there is a lot of woe is me going on in our fan base, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I get it. Yeah, it's disappointing when you lose some of the things that you thought were going to be a piece of your Super Bowl winning football team. So the tweet was that it's an interesting thought. Look at some of the elite teams in the NFL. What would the conversation be around them if they lost the equivalent of what the Bills just did? You know, the 49ers, it would be like losing Javon Hargrave, Fred Warner, and Jimmy Ward. Great cornerback. Excellent. One of the most athletic linebackers in all of football. Coverage and the run. And a dominant defensive lineman. The Eagles losing Darius Slay. Losing Davis. He says they have no good linebackers.
Nigel Bradham.
The Chiefs be like losing. It would be like losing Chris Jones, Bolton, and Snead.
And Brittany Mahomes and Taylor Swift.
You could lose both of them right fucking now. I've had enough of this shit. Dude, we have to do this every week. She's flying with the team, Chris. The woman can afford her own plane. She can buy her own plane right now. Google what her net worth is. What is this broad's net worth? She's taking plane rides with the team.
What do you think it is?
She's got to be north of...
She's got to be close to a billion.
Nah, I was going to say probably about 500 mil. I don't think she's a bill. I think she's probably about 500. Woo!
740.
She could buy the plane. If her and Travis Kelce got into a fight, she could buy the airport and then go, no, you can't leave now. We're going to have this argument. Like, fucking what? First of all, I don't ever want to date a woman with that much power
see that
or money.
Do you see that first link? Pro Football Network, Kelce and Swift's net worths compared.
Oh, Jesus.
What kind of football website?
This is what I'm talking about. You're bastardizing something I love for pop culture. It's all fun and games. It's all fun and games until this turns into something terrible. Till the Swifties infiltrate football culture, and now we have to fucking deal with that for the rest of our lives. Why couldn't this guy just keep it in his drawers when he was around Taylor Swift? Had to make her a goddamn friendship bracelet. He should be on this list. If he gets hurt, do you think she goes away?
I hope so.
I'm not going to lie to you. I did get excited because I'm a bad person. I got genuinely excited when they were like, Travis Kelce has an ankle injury. Oh, it doesn't look good. I was like, my pettiness from the morning is, I came running to the TV. I was like, I have to see this. So it's an interesting thought when you think about the 49ers, Eagles, and Chiefs. If they were to lose those players, stud defensive tackle, great linebacker, if they were to lose their best cornerback, what do you think what do you think the national narrative would be about them?
Obviously, the Chiefs would be still undefeated the rest of the way in Super Bowl.
Okay.
And we know who's going to be saying that. It's that John Wick with chlamydia character that's on TV.
Well, he's... Like, it's funny because, like, he looks like I said, he looks like Hans Gruber, but the only thing he's stealing is seconds of my life. That's it. So, when you take a look and you say to yourself, okay, who do I... Like, I'm trying to handicap a Super Bowl champion. Right now, if you go to DraftKings, you know where the Bills rank after all this?
First, second,
fifth. 49ers are plus 350. The Chiefs are plus 550. The Eagles are plus 800. The Miami Dolphins are plus 900 right now. The Buffalo Bills are plus 950. Which means they put us, and the next closest is the Cowboys at plus 1500. So it's us, the Dolphins, the Eagles, the 49ers, and the Chiefs who in a beginning of season have separated ourselves. And after this injury, Vegas hasn't changed its mind. Do you want to know why?
Josh Allen?
Yeah. I don't even have to say this. Look at the teams that are in the top of the NFL right now. They have amazing offenses powered by good quarterback play. I would say that of them, the Cowboys and the Dolphins are the shakiest, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Because you pretty much know what you're going to get from Josh Allen. And I mean, by now, I'm sure you've heard our recap podcast and our preview podcast. You've heard all my thoughts about Allen and what needs to be done there. I got philosophical, which is weird because the only philosophy professors I ever met I hated, and they hated me. But you could see that, right? Like strong, like intellectual types not being a big fan of Drew Gear.
Yeah.
So I just look at this and I say to myself, you have linebackers. Over the summer, we did a thought exercise where we looked at all of the linebacker play and how many missed tackle percentages, coverage grades, yardage allowed of all the linebackers who played in the NFL playoffs last year. There was a lot of bad linebackers on very successful football teams in the NFL postseason. Obviously, losing a one-technique player on a team that doesn't tackle well Yes, it's not great. Also, you signed a guy in Poona Ford. You've cultivated a network of players who you trust to do jobs. It does suck losing Eli Anku to the Falcons. Like, it's just bad timing. If he had just waited one more week, he'd be on our active roster right now. Getting to start for a team that, unlike the Jaguars, unlike the Falcons, is on its way to still being a highly competitive football team. I guess the reality is that we've gotten used to seeing the 49ers offense be dominant, and it's been normalized. And so you just go, well, they lost a bunch of defensive players? Who cares? Like, that sucks. It'll make things harder, but we expect they'll come out on top. The Eagles, we are used to watching their offense play very good football, and so you say to yourself, well, they lost some defensive guys, but it's not the end of the world. The Chiefs have never had an upper echelon defense for as long as this Mahomes, Andy Reid dynasty has been going. And yet, here we are. Like, if they were to lose those players, they already didn't have them. And it took the Lions some incredible luck. It took a pick six that went off some dipshit's hands. And it took a lot of things to break their way in that game for them to get one over on the Chiefs. Because they're just that good. The Bills are just that good. There are not a lot of teams in our schedule that are going to come in here and push us around. Chris, I'm looking at our schedule right now. Okay. The next 3 weeks, we play the Giants. The Giants.
Patriots.
We play the Patriots, who have 3 points. Though, Chris, they've been outscored 64-3.
I know.
We just got done listening to Simonelli lament this nonsense. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are about as middle of the road of an NFL football team as you can be.
On Thursday night, short week.
Yep. Cincinnati Bengals. Like, this is where it gets, you got to make that trip, but what are the Bengals? We don't know. Good, you throttled the Cardinals. You've also gotten your shit kicked in by a bunch of other football teams who also haven't been that great. Right?
Yeah.
So then you go to the Denver Broncos and the New York Jets. You're looking at a stretch of games here where the Bills should, in theory, win most of these contests just by strength of what their offense is and who their quarterback is. So all of this hand-wringing, I understand it. I know. To win, it's like the Trey White thing. Well, if we had Trey White during that Kansas City Chiefs game, what if? You can what if yourself to fucking death. What if the referee who thought that pass, thought the home run throwback wasn't a forward lateral and instead was an actual lateral pass, had a seizure on his walk back to the teleprompter when he was going to go watch the replay, and he dies, and they just say, you know what, we got to get out of here. Let's just call this thing a forward pass so we can go home. The Bills might have been where the Titans were playing in the Super Bowl that year. You can go. What about that's how it works. What ifs are fucking toxic. I can't sit here and say what if or lament the past or what could have been. What I do know is that we have a slate of winnable football games just by virtue of who our offense is and who our quarterback is. Chris, we've shown it in our games against the Raiders, the Commanders, the Dolphins. If you play mediocre defense, if we're not jet lagged and you don't have an upper echelon defense, which clearly the Jets do, right? Like, we fucked around and tried to talk shit about that. Look at what they did to the Chiefs. Look what they've been doing. They're a top 3 defense in the NFL. If you don't have one of those, then you are fucked. And if you don't have a star quarterback, you are fucked. The Buffalo Bills are going to be fine as long as they can find their identity, like we talked about in this week's recap show. It's interesting the way we react compared to the way other fan bases, I think, would react. Chris, do you think that's just a byproduct of the drought?
Yeah, we always have a mentality of the world is ending. Milano injured, out for most of the season. The world is ending. Daquan Jones, torn pec.
It's not going to be good.
The world is ending.
Dude, no one's saying it's going to be good, right?
Yeah, but that's our whole mindset. We've had it for the last 20 years in the drought. Anything that we had good that became broken or failed for the out for the year.
Well, it was the crippling thing.
Yes, that was that's how our minds are trained. So I get people going, the world is ending, because we've had nice things before and things happen and we don't go anywhere.
Here's a question. Do I have a healthy offensive line?
Yes. This is probably the best O-line we've had under McDermott.
Do I have 14?
Yeah.
Do I have 17?
Yes.
All right, then everyone shut the fuck up and let's go play some football. And so we're going to close tonight's show out, which is frustrating, Chris, to not see us on top. I mean, we had that one shining moment.
Yeah.
And that fucking went up in a cloud of beans and toast over there in fucking England. We have Mr. Alf Arteaga here this week to talk to us about his AFC East leading Dolphins, who just beat the Giants so badly somebody should have called CPS. Like, Alf, did that feel like a game when it was happening? Like, at what point in the game did it no longer seem watchable to you in terms of like, oh, this is a real competition?
The first drive of the game, actually, they had one first down, then they punted to us, and then Dolphins drove it right down the field for a touchdown. Even when Tua threw the pick six, everybody was just sitting around saying, "Okay, this is nice. It's only a 4-point game." And of course, the first play of the third quarter is a 69-yard touchdown to Tyreek Hill, and it's back to being a 14-point game. So, and they also drove right before the half to get a field goal. So it never really felt like the game was in any kind of danger. There were always 2 touchdowns plus ahead, and only Tyrod Taylor threatened to get that backdoor cover. But we sacked him on 4th down, and that was the game right there.
It's crazy when you look at how few first downs the Giants have this year. Like, it's wild.
They still don't have a first half touchdown this season.
They only have 2 passing touchdowns this season. Like the other night, I was watching the Giants get massacred by the Seahawks, and I'm watching that game, and I hear Al Michaels come on. I believe it was Al Michaels. Was that Monday or Thursday? I don't fucking know.
Monday was Joe Buck and Troy Aikman.
Okay, so then it must
Seahawks
have been
game. That was
Seahawks game. Okay,
was Monday night.
So whoever the color guy for that night was chimes in with this thing. If he goes, "Oh, there's Sterling Shepard with his second catch," and for a second I thought he was talking about of the game, and then I go to Pro Football Reference and I realize, oh fuck, Sterling Shepard has 2 catches on the season. What is happening here? What? That shouldn't happen to a guy who's your most tenured wide receiver. The hell is going on here? It's a shit show for them. So you guys did what good offensive teams should do. And I mean, if anything, like
coming after a loss, right?
Sure.
After getting beat down.
And here's the thing. No, you look at this. So what good teams do, especially teams that have powerful offenses, is they allow their offense to go out and win games for them. You know, we just got done talking about the Buffalo Bills injury situation and just how that's going to be the thing. It's going to be obviously it was nice when you had all these Pro Bowl caliber players all over your defense at the same time. That's a nice to have. Right now, the 49ers are living in that world and they're throttling everybody. But at the same time, you can still win games even when, you guys had a lot of questions last week about Fangio and just the way he was running your defense and some of the concepts. But if you're playing a mediocre football team, even a bad football team, you just throttle them with the offense and you let the rest of it figure itself out. And you guys did exactly that. So kudos to you. You're in first place. The theme of the week is we're talking about injuries. And the Dolphins have because the AFC East has taken some real blows over the last 2 to 3 weeks. Now, obviously, the biggest one probably be the marquee one, obviously, was Aaron Rodgers going down. But when you look at the Dolphins, you guys have some stuff going on here. Yeah, Armstead, IR with a knee. Phillips with an oblique. Craig Crafton has a Conmar out. You've got running backs and fullbacks with foot and knee injuries. HN, Mostert, Ingold. First of all, the injury to Armstead probably doesn't matter against teams without decent pass rushers. Are you at least a little concerned about the running back and fullback injuries, even if they're not crippling injuries?
Well, Alec Ingold has made it clear. He spoke to the media yesterday. They don't allow players that will not play to speak to the media. And he told the media yesterday, yes, I'm in the boot, but I'm playing Sunday.
Okay.
And so he should be fine. As far as the running backs, Devon Achane, today the coach kind of said, look, it wasn't black or white, whether we were going to put him on IR or not. That is a different story. The reason that they kind of put him on IR is and I think you saw it, and I think you retweeted it. My partner on the podcast, Chris Kaufman.
Yep.
They had like this shell game going where there was a real possibility they were going to lose Jeff Wilson if they didn't make up for the roster spot this week. So they kind of knew, look, Achane can't play for at least a week or two, possibly 3. Why don't we just shove him for 4, and that way we can activate Jeff Wilson and we won't lose him.
Exactly. Well, and this is what's interesting about the situation the Dolphins are in when it comes to injuries. You look around, and most teams, like Chris, who have we had to call up from the special teams unit for a game so far? I think this past weekend it was Jamarcus Ingram, the cornerback. Prior to that, I don't know. We've been relatively healthy coming into these last 2 games.
Was Kingsley on the roster?
Yes. So
he just hadn't been getting runtime?
I believe so. I believe he made the 53. Someone would have to correct me on that. But either way, he's a guy who has been kind of kicking around. He made the trip to England. So, you know what I mean? Like, it was like, hey, we know we're going to bring this guy. Otherwise, we haven't had to rely on that. I know the Jets haven't really had to dip their toe into that water yet. I mean, the Patriots, I don't even know what's going on over there other than the fact that I enjoy watching them get their teeth kicked in. You guys have some weird situations going on over here. First of all, it only took you guys 1 game of Robbie Anderson to realize you needed Chase Claypool. It was, hey, Robbie Anderson, we're going to give you some run with Craycraft and as a con out, and they took that 1 game and went, holy fuck, we need to make it.
Hey, it's Robbie Chosen.
Oh,
He legally changed his last name to Chosen.
Okay, well, Alf, did they choose to not see him as part of the depth chart by the end of the season?
I think Claypool has a lot to do with also Azukama, who's battling a neck injury, and that one may be a little bit more serious than most. Ooh. And speaking of like sacrificing a player, like that's a guy who is on he's like the physically he has a different designation than IR. He has a practice injury designation.
Yeah.
Where he might just be IR'd and gone for the season because his injury is a little bit more serious than most because it's an injury that's re-aggravated from college. Mm-hmm. And if you saw the Dolphins early in the season, he was a big part of the offense. Mm-hmm. And that part of the offense just completely went away. Chase Claypool is obviously going to be the guy that takes over that part of the offense, which is that pseudo running back, second tight end type, red zone wide receiver role. So you guys, I do expect Claypool to be a pretty big part of the offense, and for Robbie Chosen to just slink away into the background a little bit,
kind of where he belongs. Here's the thing. This trade kind of compounds what you guys have going on in the injury front because you guys are kind of burning through your practice. This is what I learned from just Chris Kaufman's tweets, just kind of educating myself on this, which is why, guys, if you want to stay educated on what's going on the other side of the fence, you got to follow these guys from 3 yards per carry. It's really interesting stuff that they dredge up because they're doing the work Cover One's doing for us, and I enjoy knowing that about what goes on with their team. Like Chase Winovich running out of call-ups from the practice squad. There was another player too. And then also what maybe is a more concerning dynamic, putting Achane
Cameron Good.
Good.
And a lot of Dolphin fans are going to say, Cam Good, who gives a crap? Well, Cam Good is he's a core special teamer. Mm-hmm. So the Dolphins will, in all likelihood, have to sacrifice an actual player sometime during this season to bring back one of these guys.
And that's it, because here's what's happening, guys. I don't know if you know this. Chris Kaufman tweeted about it. I'm fascinated. With all the injuries sustained by the Dolphins early on, even though none of them were as long-term as what the Bills are currently seeing with their, with DeQuan Jones, with Matt Milano, with Trey White, those are giant blows to our defense. Those guys are gone. They're IR'd. I believe they might be able to designate DeQuan Jones to return depending on how his surgery goes, it's cloudy there. I don't know whether they have to designate that ahead of time. But what I do know is that NFL teams only get 8 players that they can designate to return from IR. And over the first quarter of the season, you guys have already burned through 6 of those. You got Ramsey, Jeff Wilson, Robert Jones, Teron Armstead now, River Craycraft, and now Achane. That makes your 6th. So how concerned are you about the fact that now you have to go another 12 weeks of NFL football, including this weekend, knowing that you've got 2 IR callbacks left, and you've got multiple guys on your team who, if some fluky freak accident were to happen, you probably need them for what you're looking at in terms of a stretch run?
Yeah, I think that they're going to have a serious decision to make. Like, the guys that you do need back. Mm-hmm. And Armstead's at every single practice. You saw him on the sidelines right next to Mike McDaniel on Sunday. Like, you need that guy back. He's coming back in 4 weeks. You need Achane back because he's essentially a star. And he adds such a huge element to the running game that anytime you block a play correctly for him, it could go 80 yards for a touchdown. So he's important. And, Ramsey you're going to need, right? So you're going to have to make some decisions. I think Chase Winovich is the most likely to be sacrificed. That adds 1 roster spot that they could just carry on with an injured player. But I do believe that they're going to probably have to sacrifice a healthy player. And if you start deducing who that might be, they haven't brought back to the 21-day period River Craycraft or Ezukama. So one of those 2 could be completely healthy, and they could just be sacrificed for the season to add a spot. Because I do believe they need at least 3 of those spots for the second half.
Oh, 100%. Because if, let's say the nightmare scenario unfolds, right? You've got 2 call-ups from IR left, and you have a game where both Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill go down. Are you burning both of those? Like, are you going to burn? Let's say they're hamstring injuries. And now you go, well, I don't want to lose them for the whole season, so I'm going to burn my last 2 spots to these wide receivers. Knowing that your quarterback has a history of injuries, like, that would make you nervous, wouldn't it?
Oh, of course. And that's why they're likely just going to carry 52 or 51 going forward and roster an injured player from now on. And I do believe that they'll sacrifice one of these guys. And I think that this trade for Claypool is to add more facets to the offense, get one that they lost when Ezukama got injured. But if he pays off some dividends, they might look at River Craycraft, who's designated to return, and they might just rescind that. And he might be gone for the season. And that'll give him the 3rd IR spot for the rest of the year.
Now, what if Chase Claypool just continues to be more of what he is, or at least has been? Like, this is something I've been incredibly interested about picking your brain, because we talked to EJ Snyder from Bootleg Football. EJ, diehard Bears fan. It's funny. Him and Brett Coleman just did their Thursday live stream last week, and Brett, as a joke, made a bet with EJ that he would do a shot of Malort every single time the Bears scored, because he didn't think it was going to fucking happen. By the second half, he sounded like a drunk sorority girl and was like, guys, what kind of food should I order? Fried rice. It was amazing to watch unfold, because I'm sitting here going, yeah, getting hammered behind a mic ain't easy, is it? Oh, it's embarrassing when you're drunk behind here and you don't have all your faculties about you. Meanwhile, I'm a seasoned vet at this. So talking to him and them about this, because they're so focused on the Bears just in their personal lives, about what they do and EJ's fascination with this, he called the loss of Claypool addition by subtraction, because he goes, now all of his targets have to go somewhere. You've got Moore, who's helpful. You've got Mooney, who can do something for you. You've got all these players who could be something for you. And we've been wasting targets and wasting time dicking around with Chase Claypool. To know that that's the guy you're picking up, I mean, I know every coach has that hubris of, I'm good at what I do, and I can be the guy who gets blood out of that stone when it comes to a player who's kind of had the history Claypool has. How confident are you that you can take this the player you inherited for a throwaway pick and make something of realistic impact here in the 2023 season?
Well, Mike McDaniel has a pretty good track record in 2 years for every guy that he's pounded the table for has actually contributed to the offense and been pretty good. I expect him to be an absolute hit here.
Okay.
He's still only 25 years old. He's on his last shot. He knows the pecking order when he got here. He already met the media for the first time, and he kind of understood his role when he says, I came here to play with Tua Tagovailoa and Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. So he understands that those are the guys that are going to get the ball. I don't know if you noticed what the Dolphins were doing against the Giants, but we essentially came out to start the game in the wishbone because we came out with 2 running backs and a fullback. That was our opening lineup. Okay, we started with Mostert, Achane, and
it's a dickhead move, right? When you go, hey, this is how little I respect you as a defense. I'm gonna fucking wishbone this thing.
And of course we threw out of it, but they're gonna have to find a role for him. And like I said, he has a ready-made role. Now if he fails at that role, it's not gonna cost him anything. They'll just move on at the end of the season. But he has a ready-made role that they had for Ezukama, and he's going to have every opportunity to succeed at it. And the way I look at it, man, they paid nothing for him. It was a pick swap. He's 25 years old, 6'4", 235 pounds. And like Mike McDaniel said, you want me to say it? He's fast.
I so badly, Chris, I want to make a Seagram's bet with you, Alf, on what his final stat line will be. I'll tell you what, next week, you and me, we're going to make a bet on which one of us jerk-offs at the end of the season has to drink a Seagram's based on his stat line at the end of the year. I just need a week to kind of look at it, see what that looks like, because I really want to take the under. I don't even care what it is. Whatever I think it might be, I'm still going to take the under. Because I feel like a guy with his, like maybe he's got a fresh attitude. Maybe being on a team that looks like it can contend, maybe you get more effort out of him. But I've watched a guy in all the Bears highlights EJ's put out there who it almost doesn't look like he knows what he's doing. And that's a problem. It's a real problem when he's not putting the time and effort into learning the playbook. It's just an issue. Maybe you guys can harness his attention. I don't know. Are you game for this? I mean, it'll push us both
absolutely.
It'll push us both a little closer to diabetes, but
I absolutely I am for this. There's enough touchdowns to go around on this offense that by default he should get at least 3. I don't know if you want to make the over/under for the entire season.
Oh, Chris,
5 offensive touchdowns.
Chris, I will take the under.
That's a high number, but I would say 4 is a fair number.
Okay, I'll take the under.
Uniform.
We'll do it right now. I'll take the under. I will take the under.
4.
So
if we push, do I win the push?
No, everybody drinks.
Then everybody drinks. So you better hope it's one or the other.
So he has to get the 5 for me to win.
Yes,
all right, let's make it at 4.
See, I know you're a degenerate gambler. You can't help yourself. You saw a little action. You had to take it. Elf, I love you. I love that you come and do this with us every week. Where can they find you guys on social media and where can they join the OnlyFans?
Well, if you want to hate listen, the First Place Miami Dolphins and the best podcast covering the Miami Dolphins today, you could go to our Twitter account and there's a pinned tweet and you could check out OnlyFans there for $3 a month. Or you could just listen to our podcast, and we're everywhere. You can't miss us. We're the number 3 yards per carry. We're on every single platform, everywhere else. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, of course, it's also the number 3 yards per carry.